What most of the population neglect to realize is that real confidence is dependent on only one thing. The confidence to do only what you want to do without worrying what anybody else thinks. And the reason why so many people struggle with this level of confidence is because they lack a sense of self-confidence and have no conviction. And 3 years ago, I was exactly the same. If you fast forward to now, if you ask all of the people around me to use just one word to describe me, I'm 99% sure that they would all say one thing: confident. It's not easy, but I promise you that if you watch this video, you'll be able to achieve this level of confidence too. So as always, the timestamps are on screen and they're down below in the description. So if you want to stick around to a specific part in the video, you're more than welcome. But that's enough hanging around. Let's get right into the video. Most people worry about putting themselves out there in the world and actually being themselves because they're afraid of what other people might think of them. But this is an absolutely ridiculous paradox, and I'm about to show you why. So imagine this. You're at university or maybe at work and you meet somebody for the first time. And of course, you just have a brief conversation for, let's say, 5 minutes. You get to know them a little bit, just exchange small talk, nothing serious. You've done it 1,000 times. Then a couple of weeks pass without seeing this person and you think nothing of it. And then out of the blue, you see them again. But this time, they come over to you, give you a massive smile, a warm hug, remember everything you said from last time, and they even remember your name. And they want to know what you've been up to. This is a bit strange because you've only spoken the one time, but they're treating you like an old friend they've known for 20, 30 years. But the question I want to ask you now is, how do you feel? How do you think you'd react? Do you think you'd feel uncomfortable and weirded out? Or you'd feel appreciated, understood, and listened to? Because this person not only remembers your previous encounter, but treats you like this is the 100th time you've met each other. And the likelihood is, especially if you're an amazing, intelligent, beautiful person watching this video, is that of course you're going to feel cared for. And you're going to think this is an amazing way for somebody to treat another person. But then, if I swing that question around and ask you how many times you've done this, I can almost guarantee the answer you'd give me is 0. And that's because we're scared of what other people might think. Because for the 99% of people that are like us and appreciate that, there's 1% of people that are a bit weirded out, and we're scared of those people. But confident people don't have this fear, and that's because they all share this one skill. So, has anybody heard of the show Air Crash Investigation? In fact, has anybody even watched this on TV or maybe on YouTube? Well, I did when I was about 8 years old. This was a big mistake, because when we took our next flight, I was petrified and I absolutely hated flying, even though the couple of times we did it before, I remember loving it. But my family didn't really take me that seriously, and in fact the way they taught me how to get over this fear of flying was simply by flying more, doing the thing, and to stop watching Air Crash Investigations. And here's something you were never told. Confidence works in exactly the same way. Confident people aren't confident because they were born with that innate trait. They just like talking to people or are naturally extroverted people. They're confident because they keep consistently doing things that scare them. So over time, just like with flying, you forget what it was like to have that fear in the first place, and your brain just works on autopilot. The only way you can really do this is by something Tim Ferriss calls comfort challenges. And since I'm aware that we're probably all at different stages of our confidence, feel free to skip around to whichever part of the video you feel most applies to you. But if you're a beginner, I'm going to start by giving you the easiest comfort challenge that is going to allow you to finally build that confidence in yourself. Before I do that, if you are finding this helpful, please leave a like on the video. And if you want to keep continuing to improve your life, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because you're not going to want to miss a video when we release a new one every Monday. So if you're like how I was 3 years ago, you have absolutely no confidence. And you probably struggle to do simple things like going into a store and asking where something is, or maybe even just leaving the house. So as a result of that, this first comfort challenge is gonna feel a little bit scary and daunting, but trust me, there's a method to this madness, and I can guarantee that if you stick with it, you're gonna notice a huge difference in the way that you feel about yourself and other people. Now, how many times do you walk down the street and see people looking down at the floor, or indeed just looking on their phone? all the time, right? So what you're going to try and do is the complete opposite. And I want you to try and make a conscious effort to try and look into the eyes of as many strangers on the street as you can. This might sound a little bit odd, and indeed you need to listen to this next step so you don't get punched in the face. So the thing is, you don't want to stop gazing into their eyes until they look away. At that point, move on, go on with your day. Also, make sure you blink so you don't look too crazy. And I've never had this to me, but in the rare occasion somebody stops you and says, "Oi, what are you doing?" You can just say, "Oh, sorry mate, I thought you were an old friend or somebody that I recognized." Move on with your day, that's fine. But that's never gonna happen to you. And this might sound really daft, but think about how few people do this. And if most people don't do that, then you can stand out. And by putting yourself out there in this way, that's the first step on the kind of stage of being confident. But you might want to start actually speaking to strangers. So this next step is going to cover that, and make sure you don't get lost for words or start bumbling around like a fool. Have you ever noticed how there are some people that just seem to be able to start conversations with anyone, anywhere, anytime? And there's a secret that all of these people have been gatekeeping from you for the longest time. But don't worry, I'm about to tell you all what that actually is. First, I want you to imagine that you're going on a date with somebody for the first time. And you say you're going to go for dinner. So you meet outside of a restaurant, say hello, you go inside, you sit down, you order your drinks. Things are going quite well. You're smiling, you're exchanging niceties, just common stuff about your lives, quite surface level things. But then, all of a sudden, there's a massive silence. And the awkwardness increases as the silence increases, and you're panicking, you're sweating, you have nothing to say. Why have you got nothing to say? Instead of going for dinner on that first date, imagine that you did something active. So I'm just going to speak off my experience, but imagine you went climbing, grabbed a coffee and went for a walk in a park, or even just went on a run. Now, after the normal conversation and the basic small talk dries up, there's a reason why you'll never run out of things to say. And that's because you're in an active situation where problems arise that you can solve. Maybe you're in a run club and you notice the music playing and you ask the other person how they think they designed their playlist. And this will make the other person feel like you've known them for the longest time. It's like why after we learn every kind of basic detail about our friends, they're still our friends. Because we're doing things with them, that means life is active. It's constantly evolving around us, and we can share that common experience about the new events that take place. But this final comfort challenge is going to completely change the way you see relationships and take your self-confidence to a level that you never even imagined you'd be able to achieve. How many times have you been talking with somebody but you've never really felt like you're actually having a conversation? Whilst you're talking, you can't help but feel that the other person is just waiting for their turn to speak. And this is the difference between being heard and somebody actually listening and caring about what you have to say. And those people that listen are kind of rare to come around these days, and that's why we cherish them and care about them so deeply. The real key to building self-confidence and being able to speak to anybody is this: the pause. Because if you don't answer somebody immediately, it shows that you care. It shows you're listening and actually thinking about what to say, rather than having already thought about what you want to add to the conversation. And the only way you'll fully be able to realize this is when you appreciate that there's a difference between talking to people just for the sake of selfishly gaining something and talking to people to explore what's actually out there. But at this point in the video, you might feel like your life still lacks meaning, and as much as you try, you might not be able to get that from interacting with other people. So to solve this, you need to look introspectively, and you need to try and find a way to make your life exciting and do this yourself. And the best way to do this is to start using a crash journal. So to find out how to do this, you're going to want to watch this video here. So I'll see you all there.